Good late afternoon to everybody. Welcome to Brookline Interactive Group's cable TV show devoted to domestic violence and during COVID, many other subjects. I'm Susan Howards. I'm a local attorney here in Brookline. I'm a criminal defense attorney with a focus on domestic violence, family violence, and other things as they pop up. And we are really fortunate today, to have two very special guests. One, Kim Freedman, Program Director for the Brookline and Newton CAP programs, and I'm going to let her explain CAP. And also Cathy Wong, the Needham CAP Program Director. This is her second year as director, so I'm going to jump right in. Kim, let us know who you are and what you're doing.
Okay, so my name's Kim Freedman. As you said, I'm the Program Director for the Brookline and the Newton CAP programs. This is my second year as director, but I've been involved as a CAP volunteer since 2005. Before becoming director of the program, I've done fundraising for our sponsoring nonprofit and other organizations. CAP captured my attention when my children were young, and I knew I couldn't always be with them to protect them. So CAP has helped me feel more confident in teaching them how to stay safe in the world.
But wait a minute, Kim, what is CAP? What does CIP stand for? And why did you feel you needed to protect your children?
Okay, all right. So CAP, so CAP is an international program. It's known as the Child Assault Prevention Program.
Oh.
And it empowers children to stay safe, strong, and free.
On their own.
On their own. So we should let you know that children can be hurt by adults whom they know, by bullies and strangers, and we want them and adults to know what to do about it. These problems exist, and sadly the first one, children being hurt by adults whom they know, is real. Studies show that 1 out of 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys are victims of sexual assault by the age of 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump to Cathy for a minute, then I'm going to come back to you because this is where we're going, what you're talking about. Cathy, tell me what the Needham CAP program is and how you work with Kim.
Sure. So I'm the Needham CAP program director. This is also my second year as director. Prior to this role, I volunteered as a CAP prevention specialist in our elementary schools since 2007. Just a little bit of history before taking on the CAP director role. I've worked in the high-tech industry for over 30 years and got involved with the CAP similar to how Kim did, wanting to protect our own children. And one thing I just want to say is something I remember right from the start is that I felt so highly energized and fulfilled after facilitating a CAP workshop, something similar to completing a major project at work, but much better. So in Needham, our program is sponsored by the Needham Community Council. It's a private nonprofit organization that supports people in Needham who have undermet health, educational, and social needs. And it promotes volunteerism, community, and a sense of shared responsibility. So with the Needham Community Council, we receive no federal, state, or local tax dollars, and we are funded only by the generosity of our Needham neighbors.
Wow, that's pretty good. Kim, tell me about Newton and Brookline, the CAP program, because I had never heard of it, and I've been in Brookline almost all my life.
Okay, all right. So we're actually relatively new in the Brookline program, in the Brookline community. The Newton and Brookline CAP program is sponsored by Family Access of Newton, which is a program that is a nonprofit organization that is focused on childhood development. And it includes childcare, early literacy interventions, and child and family therapy. Family Access is also, as a nonprofit, is heavily reliant on donations from individuals and foundations. But the CAP program has been done in Newton school systems, in the Newton Public Schools, since 1992.
Wow.
So we're almost at 30 years. We're going to have a
Yeah.
celebration. And it was
Make
brought
sure
to
I'm
me-
invited. I
Okay,
expect
all
an
right,
invitation.
for sure.
This is
For
great.
sure. We've been in Brookline now since 2015. And a volunteer of ours is from Brookline, and her children were at the Heath School. And so she introduced the program to administration, and we're now providing the CAP program to 4 schools in Brookline.
Which schools, Kim? Do you recall?
Yes, oh, of course. Heath, the Ridley School, Driscoll, and Lincoln.
And is this age specific, or does it go from the beginning of
Yes.
school through high school, or is it
Yes.
just middle school?
So both of our programs, mine and Kathy's delivery in Needham, is delivered to 3 years of elementary age students. In Needham and in Brookline, we present to 1st grade, 3rd grade, and 5th grade. So there's a skip every other year. In Newton, we present to kindergarten, 2nd, and 5th grade. And as the kids get a little bit older, our program gets a little bit more nuanced. You know, the children
Meaning?
have meaning that the children have a different level of experience with others. And so they bring to our discussion more of their understanding of how people might take advantage of them, or try to exert their power over them.
So children are hurt by adults. Studies, you mentioned that studies show 1 in 4 girls. What about boys?
So 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys. So it's a little less prevalent in boys, but still 1 out of 4, 1 out of 6 is a pretty high occurrence of sexual assault by the time they're 18. And we also know that there is no demographic difference in terms of education of the adult, sexual orientation, race, income. It can happen to any child. Also,
So-
another important thing that we'd want our people, our listeners to know is that while we are mostly on guard for our children around strangers, actually, we know that 85 to 90% of child sexual assault is perpetrated by someone the child knows. And most
Whoa.
often happens at home or the home of the perpetrator.
Kathy, CAP began in response to an unfortunate incident of a 2nd grader raped
Yep.
in Columbus, Ohio. Could you talk about that in 1978?
Yeah,
A
sure.
2nd grader, how old is a 2nd grader, by the way?
Oh, that's like, what is it, like 6, 7 years
That's
old?
what I was going to say. Okay, it's a guess, 6 or 7. Holy, my goodness.
Yeah, so the parents of the school children began to notice that their children were exhibiting behaviors that children typically demonstrate when they're fearful, like bedwetting, nightmares, fear of being alone. So in an effort to help the children feel less vulnerable and more empowered, they went to the staff at the local chapter of Women Against Rape. And that's where the CAP program first was created. It's been described as one of the most comprehensive and innovative programs in the world. And as Kim mentioned, when it was brought to Newton and Brookline, we brought it to Needham in 1994, also by interested parents having this type of education for their children.
Well, can you tell me a little bit, both of you, and jump in, both of you, how does it work? Let's say you're in a school in Brookline and you're in a school in Needham.
Mhm.
How do you introduce it to the students? How do the students participate? And I'm going to ask another question. I'm sort of jumping around a little bit. Do you follow the progress of the students as they progress through school? How do you know that you've been successful? Let's say you do a session. How do you know that the children have understood it?
Sure, sure. So first to set up what is a CAP program. So we go
Yeah, good.
into the classrooms with the children, and in each classroom workshop, we cover 3 topics. We cover bullying, stranger safety, and assault by a known person. But we don't ever use that kind of language, right? We don't, we're talking in a little bit more generalities with the children. Each topic presented follows a consistent format. First, we have a brief introduction of concepts and the language that we're going to use. We then have a description of a realistic scenario that presents a safety problem. Let's say in the topic of bullying, we'll describe a situation where one child is bullying another child. So let's say they get stopped on their way to school and one child says, I want you to give me all of your money, all of your food. And I'm going to do this to you every day, and you'd better not tell anybody. And this is an incidence of exerting power over
Right, right.
of another child. So then we talk about this with the children. We have an interactive discussion about how the child who was bullied is feeling, how the child who was doing the bullying is feeling. Is that powerful? Is that a good way to feel powerful? And then what can the child who was victimized can do about it? And while we're discussing those ideas with the children, we lead them in brainstorming 3 main strategies for all 3 of the topics. The first strategy being assertive. And for the youngest kids, we say using your words to stand up for yourself, say, no, you can't have.
Kim, do they understand that?
Oh,
These
absolutely.
are little ones. They do.
Exactly. But the reason why we organize ourselves around bullying and stranger safety and then go on to talk about
Right.
assault is that the children have already had some experience with bullying and have had lessons from their parents, from their teachers about how to stand up to a bully. So then we can translate that learning into what if the person that is taking advantage of you is an adult that you know and trust and that you are supposed to look to for as an authority figure.
Don't the kids get frightened with this discussion?
Not at all, because we're talking about empowerment. We're talking with the children about our 3 strategies I already mentioned,
Right.
being assertive and standing up for yourself, seeking peer support. Who else can help you? What other children can help you? And in schools, they talk about allies. And then finally about telling a trusted adult to get help. And
I'm
so
going to jump in. Kathy, do you want to add at this point to anything Kim is saying? And then we'll go back and forth because this is absolutely incredible.
Yeah, so part of the, as Kim mentioned, there's a progression. We're talking about topics that children understand and are familiar with, from bullying and then to stranger. And when we get to that known person, it's easier for them to understand when we're talking about speaking up for yourself, saying no. And the incident is described to them in a video. We have our CAP volunteers, they play a child, and there's 2 other volunteers that play an aunt and uncle role. And basically the children watch this video where the uncle forces the child to come sit close to them, asks and force a kiss on the child, and uses a bribe as a trick to get the child to give the uncle the kiss. And after the video's over, we talk about what happened. We talk about how was the child in that video feeling, and the children are able to tell us that the child is feeling uncomfortable, feeling sad, confused, or afraid. And they identify understanding that the child didn't want to give the uncle the kiss, And then we talk to them about that bribe, like we describe how it's used and that it's basically the trick the uncle uses, and how the uncle at the end says that that kiss is their secret. The child's not supposed to tell anyone. And we then describe with the children after that video, we talk about what are examples of safe secrets and unsafe secrets.
Oh,
So
that's good.
yeah, and we tell children that they don't have to keep secrets that are unsafe. That in a secret like that is something that they shouldn't keep, and that they should tell. And we have a saying, tell, 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 so that the children understand they keep telling until they find somebody who's going to listen and believe them and can help them. And we also emphasize that it's never too late to tell, and that it's not their fault. What happened in that scenario is not their fault. They shouldn't be afraid to tell somebody about what happened so that they can get some help.
Kathy and Kim, do you present this program first to the parents of the class that you're going into, number one? And number two, how do the kids come to trust you two, your strangers or your volunteers?
Well, we're introduced. Yeah, we're introduced to the class as experts. So, you know, we have a great rapport with the teachers that we work with, and that introduce us. So, you know, we're shown to be, you know, adults that are in a trustworthy situation. We're never left alone with the children ourselves, you know, and that's part of what we would want to have ourselves presented as. One question you did ask: how does the child feel after this, and do we track children? We don't track individual participants that we've presented to. But if a child does explain that they have a safety concern, something is happening to them, then it is reported to the right reporting agencies.
I was just going to ask that.
Yeah. So if a child
okay.
does let us know that something is that they're having a problem of any kind of magnitude, then it gets reported back to the school, and the school then has protocols for reporting.
Mandated reporters, particularly if it's sexual abuse. Yeah.
And we are mandated reporters also.
Okay,
so
that's what
if
I wanted to
we
know.
learn something, we usually report in conjunction with the school.
Good.
But we also, if we feel that something needs to be reported differently, or if we think something, well, if we need to report, we can also report, and we would go through Department of Children and Families.
So you can report on your own, or you can do it in conjunction with the schools.
Yes. Yeah. And one
have you had to report? May I ask? Have you had, both of you? Have you had to report? Don't tell me who or where. But
right. Oh, of course not. No. Personally, I haven't, but our organization has.
Okay, Kathy, have you?
I have.
You have.
I have, but we have such a great relationship with the schools. They understand the situation, and in those scenarios, they're most likely to be the one to report. And
okay.
My name is provided in that report because of the child disclosed to me what happened, and I was interviewed by the police detective involved in the case. So
good. Okay.
You know, we take it seriously. The schools take it seriously, but we're not. You know, our program, we're not designed to be. What's the right word I'm looking for, Kim?
I know I was it's on the tip of my tongue too. Victim identification.
We're not designed to be victim identification, but if a child tells us something, we're required to then report.
Yeah, you're a mandate. I understand that.
Yeah, and we
How long does a session last? Let's say you go into a school. Do you go once a week? Is it 3 months? Is it for a year? How long does the CAP program exist? The entire year?
No, unfortunately, we typically are in the schools the whole year, but we are only in a workshop in each class in those grades that Kim mentioned one time. And in the younger grades, when we're in kindergarten, it's broken up into 2 sessions. So
how long are they, Kathy?
Typically, we ask the teacher to give us an hour and a half. It's about an hour presentation in the classroom, And then we have something called review time, where the children can decide for themselves if they want to have a one-on-one conversation with us out in the hallway. But there's, other adults around, so we're not actually
Right.
left alone with the child. But the children don't have to come out if they don't want to. But 99% of the time, they're telling us a story,
Uh-huh.
sharing a bullying situation, or they share with us how they've used some of these strategies to keep themselves safe. And we use that extra time to reinforce what they learned and ask what are they, would they go home and share it with their adults. We ask them who are their trusted adults so that they feel they have people in their lives they can go to if they have problems. Unfortunately, this year we're not able to be in the schools for these workshops. So we've come up with a virtual presentation that's about 45 minutes long. And the one-on-one time the children have access to are the clinical staff in the schools. We've worked it out with the school staff and the guidance counselors and the principals for specialists to be available to the students if they need to have a conversation, so that they don't feel they're all by themselves.
Is this both in Newton and Needham and Brookline, that it's all even now? I thought the schools were open.
They are, but unfortunately, to ramp up this program, we can't just turn on a dime. We've spent many months getting our volunteers ready to do virtual presentations. And on top of it, some of our volunteers don't feel comfortable going into the schools yet.
Schools. Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So
And
who
the schools
trains
have had a
you?
no-
Go
Sorry,
ahead, Kathy.
Susan.
Go ahead, Kim. Go ahead.
I was just going to add that the schools, as the trends have gone up and down, the schools have had a no visitor policy,
Right,
and it's been different schools have had different policies. So we've had to try to create a level playing field for us to have our volunteers be prepared.
So, and obviously, I would think that virtual hampers the interaction and the effectiveness of your program to some degree. I'm sure that you compensate for it, but
Yeah,
it's so
to
much
some
better
degree.
in person. It's so,
We
isn't
were
it?
we were so worried about it because, as I said, or Kathy and I have described, it's an interactive kind of dynamic conversation
Right.
with children. But the teachers have been so super about helping us. We're still asking questions, and then the teachers are facilitating the students being able to answer. So it's almost like we're there. I think the kids, this is the way they've been learning now for more than a year.
Yeah.
And it's really, we've done now 8 programs, and they've all been really successful. And
Good.
the teachers' feedback has said that the program has been clear and understandable, and the children remained engaged.
Who trains you, Kathy and Kim?
So the international ICAP program, we were trained through them, and Kim and I went through specific training so that we can train our volunteers as well. So any volunteer that are in these workshops, they go through 21 hours of training.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And
then,
you're still doing it now during COVID, the training?
So unfortunately, we haven't done any new training, but what we typically do every year is we do some clearing of the cobweb training with our existing volunteers.
Okay.
And so this past year has been so focused on the shortened presentation and training our volunteers how to use Zoom and present through Zoom. So they've been amazing, and their dedication to this program and ensuring that our children are safe just gives Kim and I so much energy because of what they bring to the program.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So in the few minutes we have left, is there anything each of you want to say that you haven't said? And also, how do we get in touch with you?
So I would like to make a plug for what Kathy was just saying about our volunteers.
Go for it.
That we will be ramping up a training session for 2022. So we will probably start looking for new volunteers come this spring.
How do
So
they
they're-
get in touch with you, Kim? Let's say it.
So
How do
they should find us. They can find me at kfriedman@familyaccess.org.
Kay
and-
Freedman at familyaccess.org. Maybe we'll run that. I hope we'll run that at the end of the show.
That would be
Perfect.
wonderful.
Okay.
And Kathy?
And I'm at C Wong, WONG, at needhamcouncil.org.
C Wong at needhamcouncil.org. And you are looking for volunteers who are willing to take the training, and then you place them in schools. Am I correct? They
That
go
is-
through Kathy and Kim.
Yes.
That's
This
right.
is amazing. Thank you so much for coming today. I'm thrilled. I'm glad to know about this in Brookline because I know another side of it as an attorney, and I know about child abuse, and I know about trafficking, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know if either of you have seen any trafficking, but yes, okay, I can tell by Kathy's face. Cathy Wong and Kim Freedman of the CAP program that keeps children safe. Thank you so much. This is Susan Howard, and that's it for Safety Net for today.